So we've touched on education and health, two key things in harnessing human potential, but of course there's a third, and that is jobs. And that's where people like Jack and Rajendra come in as well. Jack Ma, Alibaba, of course, is harnessing the opportunity people can have through entrepreneurship. Tell me the experience you've had, how you've seen it change things. You were here last year. You made commitments to achieve certain things. Give us an update.
Okay, yeah, thank you. It's my great honor. And Mrs. Bush talking about a woman, talking about education and health. Since I'm a small guy, I'm talking about a small is beautiful. I think small people has a big heart and small business have big vision. This world is going to turn around because we are entering the century of the small. Last century, everything's big, big is beautiful, big amount of money, big, large scale. Now it's small, flexible, tailor-made. These are the futures. And at the small business, not only creating jobs, they're creating hopes. They're creating innovations. They're creating a lot of dreams. And I think we are, I'm very lucky, we are very lucky people at this stage that we are using internet, not as a technology. Internet is something that we can change people's lives, we can create more jobs. I hate to see a lot of internet companies think it's a great technology, a lot of servers, computers. What we want to see behind a computer and the servers, there are a lot of human lives, a lot of hopes. That is the key of that. And I think, today, because of the internet, a lot of people realize their dreams. That I bought these shoes on the internet because it's made by a 70-year-old lady in the west part of China. And when I bought the shoes, I know she has a job, and I enjoy my confidence on the cotton shoes. And this is all about helping others and helping yourself. And using internet, we don't want internet to be a cold-blooded machine that can choose humans' life. We want behind the computers their lives, their hopes, their dreams, their innovations. Yeah.
Jack, an important point. We've hit a very tough economic climate globally, and entrepreneurship needs funding. What change have you seen in the way people are willing to fund entrepreneurship? Now, of course, there's different scales of it. We've seen microcredit do amazing things, but what have you seen in terms of driving money towards the people who need to drive their entrepreneurship?
Well, human beings either are in the crisis or will be on the way to the crisis because we all get used to it. But what I would see that when the crisis came, the typhoon or earthquake, there always a big problem is the big trees. The small tiny like a grassland, they always have the hopes. I don't see there a big difference between now and before that. There are more people who start to build up the business. In China, I think next to 5 years, private sectors, entrepreneurs will coming up and to get also like Indian. So I see after the crisis, there will be more hopes. There are more entrepreneurs will come up.
Thank you, Jack. Rajendra Pawar, thank you so much for your patience. Coming to you last, not least, of course. Tell me about Bhutan. That's been a very interesting and perhaps a potential role model for other parts of the world, a project to lift up the whole country. How?
Well, Bhutan, for those of you who are not aware, is a small country, less than 1 million population between India and China. But in 1972, the fourth king was asked a question. He was traveling through Europe. What's the GDP of Bhutan? And he said, we don't believe in GDP. We believe in GNH. He coined that phrase, which is gross national happiness, 1972. And today, the Scandinavian countries are going to study to see what do they mean by that, because with a single-minded focus on GDP, we've all gone the wrong way. So they are designing. The interesting thing about Bhutan is the world's youngest democracy. The monarchy, the fifth king, now just 30 years old, has caused democracy to happen. The government is just 2 years old. They're pursuing this dream of GNH. And the young king, I had a chance to meet him in October 2008 when I was there. And young, very well educated in India, in Europe, and the US. And he posed a question to me. He said, we have clarity on where we want to go with GNH. We don't want to destroy our environment. 72% is forest. They want to keep it. There's a constitutional clause which says that forests will never become less than 60% in the country. And he said, we recognize that information technology, computers and communication is the basis and the vehicle in which to do development in a way which keeps society intact, culture intact, environment intact. And he wanted to know that what NIIT had done in 30 years in India, and now 40 countries, on building talent, how could it be done in 5 years in Bhutan? So we put together a blueprint, which essentially has interesting role that educating the king, it starts with that, and he spent the time to learn. 5,000 of the government officials, starting with the Prime Minister and everyone else. All the 100,000 children in high school, 12,000 children in higher education, 5,000 teachers in schools. In the next 5 years, all of them are going to go through a comprehensive literacy program. And for those who are back and beyond, there are people who have to walk 4 days to reach a school. They will be putting the same high-wheel kiosks with a solar panel and a satellite dish so that they can also be connected. So it's going to be a very big experiment in seeing how connectivity and computing can help a new nation to build gross national happiness.
From what you've seen so far, can it be scaled up to help other countries that are looking to do the same kind of thing across a much bigger scale?
It can be, but I think it needs a very committed leadership at the top, because this is a fundamental change. It's about accepting the reality that connecting citizens, when many governments are challenged, is a much bigger priority than anything else. So once the leadership is there, I think there are blueprints and models and experiences available to make it happen.
Let me get a question in from YouTube. We have one that's been sent in. Jack Ma, I'm going to put this to you. Investment in alternative fuels and energy conservation can create jobs and stimulate the economy, in addition to reducing CO2 emissions. What policies do you support to encourage economic growth by supporting green job growth? Now, people talk about the green economy. When you look at entrepreneurship, where do you see it fitting in?
Yeah, I think, this question is especially related to China. China economic growth very fast, but we have a big problems in the water protection and tree plantations. There are serious problems. 2 years ago, 2 of my colleagues, they're just early 20s, they died because of cancers. And I asked all of the colleagues of the company, tell me anybody who are your relative or friends that never got any cancer. Every one of them say, I have a relative or friends that have cancer. And that's the big problem that we are facing right now. The economy grows, water is polluted, trees polluted, even the fish in the Yangtze River got poisonous. So that's the big issues that China is facing. I think the government is paying a lot of attention to it, but the other thing, the private sector should also seriously take. Now, what we do today is that trying to using internet to sort of wake up the people, how serious we are. It's just like the 1950s, 1940s in the States and in Japan, the economic growth, the environment is hurt. So I think the government and also the companies like us, we give 0.3% of the revenues every year, just focus on water protection and tree plantations. Any company that is focusing on that, we sponsor them, we create jobs for them. So I think this is a serious issue. It's not like years ago, most of the Chinese go, okay, let them talk about environment, let's focus on the growth. Now we know how serious it is.
Mrs. Bush, it's interesting. Jack was talking about how entrepreneurship can actually lift up so many people. Now I wonder, there's also a feeling among many young people that they've been failed by the generations before. Now we're seeing a generation, 2 generations here on the stage. Is there a sense, perhaps, that so much wrong has been done that has, hindered the chance for the young generation? Is the young generation at all disillusioned? I'm asking you as opposed to your daughters, but do you think that there is disconnect?
Well, just from watching my girls, I don't think there is necessarily. I think they see, because the world has gotten so small because of the internet and cable television and everything else we have, that they see world problems now as their problems. When my generation grew up and we didn't have that kind of access to what was going on in every single part of the world, our problems seemed so much closer to us, right at our front doors, rather than around the world. But what I see in young people, Barbara and Jenna and their cousin who's here at a front table, and other all of Barbara and Jenna's friends that I know, is that they want to reach out, that they feel a real responsibility to people all over the world, and a sisterhood and brotherhoodship, I think, with young people around the world.
And one of the key things that we're stuck with here is a lack of time. There's a horrible red clock telling me we're pretty much having to wrap it out. So I hope, wrap it up, sorry. So I hope that at least some of the points made here will encourage further debate and discussion. It's important, obviously, as well as putting out the ideas and being able to put forward ideas, to be able to listen. And I always say how much of a problem there can be if people don't listen properly to all that's going on out there. With the story of an elderly man who went to the doctor. He was starting to feel his hearing going, his eyesight going, he was getting on. So he went to the doctor for his checkup. And the next day, the doctor saw him walking down the street, big smile on his face, with a very young woman, grinning away, dressed up. And the doctor saw him a few days later and said, "Jack, what are you doing? I saw you with that very young woman. You're 85 years old. What are you doing?" She was like a quarter of your age and big grin on your face. "What's going on?" He said, "I'm just following your advice, doctor." He said, "What do you mean following my advice?" "Well, he said, you said, be cheerful, get a hot mama." He said, "No, I didn't. I said, be careful, you've got a heart murmur." So it's very important that as much as we talk, we listen as well. And I thank you very much for listening to our panel. Big round of applause. And, of course, a big round of applause for the CGI team, because behind all the curtains and everything, there's a lot of people doing a lot of hard work. So a big round of applause for the CGI team as well. Thank you. Thank you very much.